Hi, I'm Dr. Walter Matwychuk, and the purpose of today's intermittent reinforcement email message is to talk to you about the effective use of your time. Benjamin Franklin often said that time waits for no one, and I think pretty much everyone will agree that time is a precious resource. It only goes forward. Wasted time is never regained, and yet fallible humans often squander their time. Rational emotive behavior therapy helps you become more efficient in your use of time because it begins with helping you to accept yourself even when you waste time. It's not that we're advocating that you do so, but if you acknowledge that you're wasting time, upsetting yourself then does not help you get started. Some people may think upsetting themselves will help them get started, but the fact of the matter is devaluing yourself is likely to only lead you to waste more time. So REBT encourages you first to accept yourself with your tendency to squander this precious resource, and then look for the ways to effectively utilize it. Now, what I've found is that it's very important to discipline your mind so that at the beginning of each day, you make a list of things to do. It's very easy to want to launch into your day, and particularly if you're anxious about the things you have to do, but it is good to pause, make a list, and then quickly prioritize some of the most important things that you have to do. If you don't discipline yourself to do this, what will happen is you may find that at the end of the day, you've avoided doing the most important things. Generally speaking, there's too little time to do everything we want, and therefore it's best to see that if you are going to leave something undone at the end of the day, it's best that it not be the most important things. This way you will minimize the regret you have. Secondly, you need to look at your low discomfort tolerance attitudes. People will often say things like, it's too hard to take a moment to make a list of things. I just have to get going. And when we think that something's too hard, we tend to avoid doing it. It would be far better for you to see that it's maybe a bit uncomfortable to delay and plan your day for a few minutes. It certainly pays to do so, and you can bear it. Now, the other way people waste time is once they delay and waste and procrastinate time, they may say things like, well, I absolutely shouldn't have wasted time. Well, certainly it would have been better had you not wasted time, but you did, and you had better accept that and see that the universe permits it. You don't have to utilize your time efficiently, but it's certainly better to do so. And if you give up that demand that you use your time effectively, you will feel appropriate disappointment and sadness when you do waste time, and you will feel concerned for the consequences of wasting time. Perhaps the best way to get yourself engaged and doing your task list on a daily basis is to feel genuine concern for the consequences of not getting going. Concern, rather than anxiety, will come from desiring that you get started sooner rather than later, and that you do things well. Now, another way that people hold themselves back with regards to time is that they allow perfectionistic impulses to get in the way of taking action. When we think that we have to do something perfectly well, we tend not to get started. Now, people will say, well, I have to do this perfectly well because of the consequences of not doing it perfectly well. Well, this still does not logically follow, simply because even if there are great consequences for not doing something very well, it doesn't follow that you have to do them very well or perfectly well. First of all, fallible humans can't really do anything perfectly well. And secondly, you're more likely to do something well if you get started immediately, and then you have more time to make revisions to whatever it is that you're doing. When we delay, we waste time, and in so doing, we actually corner ourselves and prevent ourselves from having the maximum amount of time to do whatever it is that we deem to be important to do. Now, people have other kinds of attitudes that hold them back besides perfectionism. They may say, like, well, to get started, I have to feel like doing something in order to get started. Now, this assumption is very self-defeating. If it's important to get started at doing something and you have time now, you can act despite not feeling very inclined to do something. You may be a bit tired. You may be a bit not sufficiently well rested, or you may be frustrated. It doesn't follow, though, that you have to delay and that you have to feel in the right state of mind to get started. What I generally say to myself is, even if I don't feel inclined to get started, a body in motion stays in motion. I don't have to feel inclined to get started, and I will chip away at the task I have to do because I have available time, and I can bear the discomfort of starting even if I'm feeling disinclined to start. The other thing that people will do is they will down themselves. They will devalue themselves for having wasted time. And of course, using your time efficiently doesn't make you a better person. That would be an arbitrary way of categorizing yourself, and it would be only rating a part of yourself and making it stand for your human value, which is totally illogical to do. What you need to see is that how well or poorly you utilize time and how much you accomplish or how little you accomplish related to your use of time has absolutely zero to do with your human value. Now, you can acknowledge that utilizing time well will enable you to have more pleasure or less pain, and that's good, but it doesn't make you a good person if you use your time well and have more pleasure. And it doesn't make you a bad person if you pay the consequences for your procrastination. Finally, I would argue that utilizing your time in the mid-run, midterm, and long term really takes work and practice. And I'm a very goal-oriented individual. I think it's good to make lists. I think it's good to keep your list in a book so that you can look at what you didn't do yesterday, so that you can then perhaps add it to your to-do list today if it's a priority to do today. I think that it's good to think about the future and your utilization of time, not just over the course of a day, but over the course of a week, a month, a year, or even multiple years. I always say that it's good to have a day timer with a week at a glance view because it enables you to see the entire week, and then you might be able to plan which days during a week that you do certain things. I also would suggest that you give thought to how you want to spend time over the years, because REBT is all about maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain, and planning out how you might do things over the years will certainly help you in that goal of maximizing pleasure. So today's intermittent reinforcement email message is arguing that you need certain behavioral strategies like lists, but you also need certain cognitive attitudes, healthy attitudes about time, about wasting time, you need anti-procrastination attitudes, and of course you need high discomfort attitudes in order to utilize time effectively. I would suggest that you carefully read today's intermittent reinforcement email message, and more importantly, that you really work to implement it. I would also encourage you to attend my weekly demonstrations on Saturdays. During these demonstrations, they're on Zoom. I take a volunteer and I talk to them about a particular behavioral problem they may have or emotional problem they may have. And of course, procrastination may very well be one of the problems we address. When you watch these Zoom conversations, you often learn a great deal that you could put into practice in your own life. They're free to attend, but you need the link. So write to me at rebtdoctor@gmail.com. I'm in New York, and it's 9 a.m. every Saturday when I hold these events live, which is 2 p.m. in the UK, 4 p.m. in Bucharest, 7 p.m. in Karachi, 7:30 in New Delhi, 11 o'clock in Japan. We have a worldwide audience, and well over 130 people attend on a weekly basis. And it just seems to be a very effective way of helping people learn sensible attitudes. I hope you can attend. Again, write to me at rebtdoctor@gmail.com.